there's one thing that kind of comes to me automatically. When I was about 6 years old, we lived in a trailer right outside of Clarksburg. And so my dad was really big in like NAACP and things like that. And his family kind of grew up there. And so that's really not important to the story, but kind of. So one night, like, so after dark, so I'm 6 at the time, so it could have been anywhere from like, 9 o'clock to 3 in the morning. So sometime in the night, some people came to the house to let my dad know that there had been a cross burning not far from where we lived. And so, that's before like cell phones, so like they, had to come and get you. And so I remember my dad, I remember like, some chaos, and there was a couple of gentlemen. I feel like maybe one was my godfather, and then there was another gentleman in town who had come with them. And so they were going, to the family where the cross burning was, to help protect them. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't remember a lot about it. So apparently, like when they came home, I was like pushed into a room somewhere. But I remember it being a very scary incident. Hearing about like what happens at cross burnings, and sometimes people losing their lives and their homes, and so afraid that something was going to happen to my dad. As he went, he was an angry man, and so if there was conflict, it would not go well, and so worried about him coming home safe. So there was fear as to what was happening not far from me, and then fear that if my dad would come home. So how I deal with that, I think I just try to so always, in being Black, always just being aware, of your surroundings and environments, and trying to read people, engage safety, and relying on, the people that you love to keep you safe.
Oh, that just seems so painful. So sorry. So what I hear you saying is you were 6 years old and you were living in a trailer, and your dad was very involved in the NAACP, and in the middle of the night or after dark sometime, to a child, we don't know exactly what time, is some folks came to warn your dad or get his help to go protect the family that had a cross burning. It's sick and sad to think about that, and to think that you had to do that. Okay. And your dad was an angry man, so you had a lot of worries about him, and if he was going to be safe, and you were going to be safe, and the way you deal with it is, you're saying as a Black person, you always have to be aware of situations. You have to read a room, and you're constantly assessing situations to see if they're safe. Mm-hmm. I can remember being in church in Louisiana, and it was a mostly Black church, and I was, in my fear state,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing this traditional thing, and I don't quite have the confidence to go for it. And this woman stood up, and she was talking about a meeting of the women in the church, and she was talking about how Jesus, when the risen Jesus, revealed himself to a woman. And she's like, "And you, a woman, so go tell it." And I was like, it just went right through me. It's just really empowering. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is kind of the difference between womanist and feminist, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is woman. Like, woman is strong, woman is proud. And then feminist is a little more intellectual or something. Anyway, I did explore that kind of in detail in graduate school. It was like a different kind of power. She had a lot of personal power. Mm-hmm. And I really loved that. And like I say, I absolutely love reading Toni Morrison. Mm-hmm. She got increasingly a little more arcane for me, like hard to understand. Mm-hmm. And Alice Walker. I was like, this is how I talk. This is how I think. And I did have this moment in my graduate master's dissertation, in the first one. One of the questions I was asked was, why did you pick this novel? And I think it was Sula. And I said, well, because, Toni Morrison describes herself, or this character, as coming from a kind of a middle-class family that's repressive. I said, and I feel like I come from a repressive middle-class family. And he's saying, and the question was, are you saying that you can sympathize with Toni Morrison? And I felt really ashamed then, well, clearly not, because I'm from a privileged white family, and I guess she's not. And I felt like the question was very nasty also, is that what I'm supposed to do intellectually? Just decide, okay, I can never, we can never connect. Like, you're right. I was like, he probed me, and I was like, well, these things are shared. And when they're shared, that she's communicated with me. She's crossed over and gotten to me. So I remember thinking that academics was really a hostile place and not necessarily where this connection's going to happen. It was kind of a cynical moment. And I felt really attacked too, like, how dare I try to read black lit and be, So, this path is really fraught.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I think it's because you're interesting, is that it was not you so much wanting to put, like, your whiteness, if I can say that, on someone, or for someone to understand your plight, but what seems important to you is connecting and having shared experiences. And those are the people. There have been black women who have resonated kind of with your soul and what you think. Absolutely. And so one, at the church in Louisiana, where you're like, yes, that gets me to my next step, I can do this independent thing that I'm doing. And then identifying with the writings of the authors that you respected. Like, they were writing about something that you could feel. Absolutely. And then you connected to that, and then being kind of like slapped for assuming that you could feel that seems like disheartening. Yeah. It's unfortunate.